every day, which is another day at work. That is. I'm going to switch to, I'm just, instead of, because putting out, everybody uses putting out fires. I'm just whacking moles today. It's just,
I like that better.
that's way better. It's way more fun. It's whack. I'm ready whenever you are. So, yeah. Amy, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the time and the place for the regular school board meeting for the Marshalltown Community School District. Welcome to those of you joining us here in person. Welcome as well to anybody who might be watching us live or who's watching us at a later date or time. We'll do introductions. We'll start with board members. We'll start to my left this evening. We've got Karina Hernandez, Maria Morales, Leah Stanley. To my right, Zach Wall and Sarah Faltis. Seated to my left at the center table, Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools. And to my right, Mr. Randy Denham, our board secretary. I am Sean Heitman. We also have all three of our student board reps here this evening. Daisy Covarrubias Andrade, Giselle Hernandez Ibarra, and Natalie Andrade. Welcome back, girls. And yeah, that's the introductions. We've got a pink sign-up sheet there on the speakers table for anybody who wants to address the board during public comment. Please sign up there. You will be given 5 minutes to address the board. Please understand that Iowa law prohibits the discussion of specific employees of the district or their job performance. Also, in accordance with board policy, board members will not respond to comments made so that we can comply with open meeting laws. With those things out of the way, would you all please join me in reading the mission statement of the Marshalltown Community School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And please stand as you're able and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes, we had an agreement with Alliant, an easement agreement that we pulled because it was incorrect, I guess.
Yes, Alliant needs to make some adjustments to it. They didn't have
And
the
so
drawings right.
that'll come back at a later time. It doesn't take effect till August of this year anyway. So.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Was that you, Leah? Mm-hmm. Okay. Stanley Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Abby.
Good evening, everyone. So starting off with a little bit of bowling. Bobcat bowler Aiden Cohen won the Class 3A state individual title at Cadillac Lanes in Waterloo on February 20th. Aiden and coach Nate Clark are here tonight to be recognized and talk about the individual championship competition. So you want to talk about the experience?
Yeah, going into state qualifier, Aiden was pretty hot. He shot like 4 games with 1 shot away from being perfect. So he was on a roll going into state qualifier. He started state qualifier with another one of those games. I think 267, something like that. He ended up qualifying 8th out of our conference or sub-state, which had 2 of the best teams in the state in it. So the fact that we made it as a team was pretty huge, and the fact he qualified, which is pretty huge because both those teams had 6 really good bowlers each. So the fact he made top 8 was pretty remarkable. He's a sophomore, so probably be seeing us again. Not to be cocky.
He sure looks good.
But he qualified 8th, and then that ended up being the lowest score out of all 4 sectionals. So he was really the 32nd qualifier in the state tournament.
Qualified 8th here. is what you-
Qualified 8 in our
Okay,
sub-state.
I gotcha.
And then there's 4 sub-states, and he had the lowest qualifying score. He was the lowest 8th man out of all 4.
Okay.
So he was technically the 32nd qualifier going into the tournament. At state, I'm going to talk about the team too. We qualified 7th out of the 15 Baker games, which was really 90 pins from the cut, which, I mean, is very close for, I mean, 8th place doesn't sound as bad as what we really did, so I just want to put that out there. And then the next day, Aiden, both individuals, he had 4 very good, there was four people on each pair, and our entire pair, I think, qualified in the top 8, so we had a very good pair. He qualified 8th with a 7.08 series out of 3 games, so 230-something average for those 3 games. That first match, he would have bowled the first place qualifier who was actually on our pair with us. That was the highest series he's ever bowled in his life, so he was probably already going through some emotions already, not knowing how much better he could possibly do. So I knew from there, like, that he was going to beat him in that first match at least. He ended up throwing an open in his 10th frame and gave Aiden a chance, and he took advantage of it and then moved on. That second round in the bracket play, he went up against a kid from Waukee, another very talented kid. Beat him like 240-something, 220-something, and then went up against Rush Steen, which is his father runs like all of the bowling stuff for high school bowling. So, I mean, he's like borderline professional, amateur status. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but he's like right there, and he beat him 267, 240 something. Not sure scores. It's a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. I was pretty proud of him.
Aiden, anything you want to share?
It was a wonderful experience.
You became a local celebrity, I see, at city council meetings too.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, just
Making
one
our
second.
rounds.
Making your rounds, all right.
Well, we're super proud of your accomplishment. I think I've been here 8 years. I think this is the 3rd individual champion during that time, or at least champion or runner-up, which is astonishing. And then, obviously you're bowling for a team that has a lot of history behind it of success in this sport. So we're excited for you individually, and probably even more excited about what the future holds the next couple of years with the young team. And it looks pretty bright.
10 years straight,
Yeah.
which is a state record.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations.
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 Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You.
Okay, so last week was Public Schools Week from February 26th to March 1st. Marshalltown Community School District honored our schools and the unique talents of every student during Public Schools Week, coming together every day with families and communities to strengthen collaboration and highlight strategies for continuous improvement. And I know on Friday we recognize each of our employees during that. And then this week is National School Breakfast Week. National School Breakfast Week commemorates the significance of a nutritious school breakfast and empowering students for success. This dedicated observance occurring during the first week of March honors the National School Breakfast Program and its myriad of ways providing children with an excellent start every day. I know our food service staff have been publishing some photos onto their Facebook page, and we'll have a couple of photos of their Hawaiian themed t-shirts and go with the flow, dude style. So.
Thank you, Abby. Looking at the consent agenda, we've got minutes from the February 19th board meeting. Dr. Schutte, any items of note in personnel?
Yes, we have 3 significant retirements that have been requested. This will represent a tremendous amount of years of service and dedication, high-quality effort. 2 of the retirees are from Lenahan, Chris Allman, and this is from Kyle Young. Chris Allman is a dedicated educator who has always been willing to connect with her students and put them in a position to experience success. Her high expectations have provided a fantastic learning environment for thousands of Marshtown students over the years. Her passion for supporting those new to our community has been evident in her work with migrant tutoring. Her organization and desire for greatness for all of her students will be sorely missed. Also, William Lawrence, who's the intermediate school librarian. Bruce is a very valuable member of the team at Lenahan. He's always willing to help out anywhere in the building. He's highly organized and does an excellent job of keeping the Lenahan Library an inspiring and welcoming learning environment. He's been a great helper with the intramural programming, most recently facilitating the Lenahan Chess Club. The technology that are in the classrooms has changed dramatically over the course of time that Bruce has served Lenahan, and he's always seeking out new learning to help our staff and students. He will be truly missed, and we wish him nothing but the best as he takes on his next challenge. And then from Marshtown High School, Counselor Mary Edel, who joined the school district in 2009. While primarily serving the role of school counselor, Mrs. Edel formerly taught Spanish and psychology. Mrs. Edel has served as a mentor and role model to student teachers in school counseling as well as students in her case management. Mrs. Edel collaborated with other school counselors across Iowa to bring a focus on social emotional learning for students into the schools. She served on the UNI Counselor Advisory Board, YSS Advisory Board, and Iowa School Counselors Association. Her next job after school counselor might be Iowa Wild Announcer, as she loves speaking on the sound system. And that's from Jackie Wyant, Marshtown High School principal.
Looking at interagency agreements and contracts, there's an agreement between the school district and Eastern Iowa Community College for use of facilities to make teachers available for students to observe educational programming. An agreement for the renewal of Go Guardian subscription license from SMS Technology or Tech Solutions from July 1, 24 through June 30 of 26. A facilities restoration and plan services agreement with Interstate Power and Light Company. An agreement between Marshtown Community School District and Classroom Clinic for licensed access to Classroom Clinic software. An agreement between University of Northern Iowa for teacher education field experiences for the 24-25 academic year.
Just a reminder that we tabled that Alliant agreement, number 3.
That's a different agreement.
Oh, is it?
This is the restoration,
that's a
that
different
easement agreement's not on here.
Easement one was the one that we took off. That's a different agreement.
Okay, because I had submitted this one to be on there. This agreement. I don't know of another one unless you put it on.
The easement one I put on.
Oh,
last
okay.
Yeah, there was an easement agreement that was on there.
Okay.
And now is not.
Okay.
There are also a number of special education agreements with Woodward Granger Community School District, with Johnston, and with East Marshall. Looking at open enrollments, there are 4 for the current school year, 2 in, 2 out, and 1 out for the next school year. Randy, anything to note in bills? No. In gifts and grants, we've got a donation from Ironworkers Local 67 of 4 welders to the MCSD Industrial Arts and Technology Program or Department, and an Iowa Agriculture Literacy Foundation Teacher Supplement Grant in the amount of $154.99 for ag career research and media supplies. Questions about any of the items in the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
I heard Zach, I think. We'll go Faltis, Wall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries 6-0. Nobody on the pink sheet? Nope. Lynn, are you ready? Come on down.
Thank you.
They keep sending me the signature thing.
Hello. My name is Lynn Carroll. I'm Executive Director of Heart of Iowa Big Brothers Big Sisters. I actually have been in this position. This is my 13th year as the director. Prior to that, I was a match support person with community-based and then school-based as a part-time kind of thing prior to that. So been around in this world quite a while, but I haven't been back to speak to you for quite a while, so I'm glad that you invited us to come. Handed out a copy of our brochure as well as some basic information. And what I'd like to talk about is some of the background kind of stuff that, as a director, I deal with. And then we have Desiree, who will tell you more about what is the hands-on kind of thing that happens with our school-based. So 91% of those that we serve fall below the poverty level. 31% of those kids we serve have one parent or two who have been or currently have been involved in the court system. Some of our kids are being raised by grandparents. We have every variety of family life situation of kids that we're working with. Big Brothers Big Sisters started actually as Big Brothers in 1972, so we've been around quite a few years. We are a 501c3 agency, as well a nonprofit, as well as a United Way agency. In 1975, Big Sisters came on board, so we became Big Brothers Big Sisters. A name changed in 2004 to Heart of Iowa Big Brothers Big Sisters. And in 2006, Pat Kramer was an assistant superintendent with the school district at the time. Now, over the course of time, Pat Kramer was a big brother with us for 44 years. So as the assistant superintendent, there was a decision being made to discontinue the Caring Connection, that was the mentoring program within the Marshtown School District, and to hand that off to us. So it has been our pleasure to be able to provide school-based mentoring since 2006. We are also in the West Marshall School District as well as BCLUW School District. But most of our matches come from Marshalltown. We also have a community-based program that provides outside of school mentoring. And there's the difference between those is you must be 16 and above to be a school-based mentor and 18 above to be a community-based mentor. We really are about building relationships. As an agency, it's not just about that relationship between the big and the little, the adult and the child, the mentee. It is a primary thing about who we are as a total agency. I am not a shy person, so I don't have a problem talking to pretty much anybody, but I just find that that's just so important to at least to be that first person that says hi, because I think that is sometimes the most overwhelming hurdle that people have trouble breaking through. So I don't have a problem doing that, but our staff does that as well, so that's the cool part about it. We are building relationships with parents, with littles, with bigs, with our community, with the organizations in our community. We make quite a few of referrals to other agencies. That's because we get to know the families that we're working with. You know, if we're finding that they're short on, or they're having a tough time paying their heat bill, we refer them to MICA for LIHEAP. If they're having difficulty with rent, we refer them to Salvation Army. If it's a food issue, there's the emergency food box. And if there is another issue that might be helpful for center associates to be involved, we are making those kinds of referrals on a regular basis and following up with them on that. We also build relationships with our donors and those who bowl for us. So thank you for bowling with us. Bowl for
do
kids'
as
sake.
well as the high school. Maybe I should have him on my team next year.
There you go, work on that. We rely on also building relationships with grant funders, and some of those include our local community foundation, Variety, the Children's Charity, the American Legion Foundation. Those kinds of grants are often what is providing extra things for us to be able to offer to our bigs and littles, providing activities like the Variety, the Children's Charity. We were able to go to an iCubs game, and I think you went on one of those, didn't you?
Hockey.
Yeah, I believe the bus driver got nervous when she said, I should know that guy with the hat. And then I told her that it was Dr. Schutte, and she went, oh, no. So good. It's just a good experience for some of our kids, or a lot of our kids. Maybe a trip to the movies is the first time they've ever been, or to an iCubs game or Iowa Wild. Those are some of those experiences that they may not have an opportunity to participate in. And personally, I appreciate being able to offer those kind of wow things for kids, even as simple as MHS night. We were at Big Brothers Big Sisters at the high school basketball game at the end of January, and some of those kids have never been in that gym before. And what a cool thing, you know? And they get to see the band, and it may be a motivator or any of those kinds of things. That's anything we can do that helps to help them dream and think bigger than what they have in the past. That's really what I love about what it is that I do. We also connect with our Iowa Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies. There's 8 of us totally. We connect regularly in Zoom calls and meetings. Golly, I call them once in a while when I have a question about something, because they're all bigger than us. Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Sioux City, Quad Cities, most of them are larger than us. So I have an opportunity to ask questions, and they are always fabulous on what they can provide. We are a Big Brothers Big Sisters affiliate with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. There's 238 agencies across the country. And then we are also an affiliate with Iowa Mentor, which is the state of Iowa. So we have, we follow the 23 standards of practice provided by Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, and we have to renew that on an annual basis, following policies. And then Iowa Mentor, the elements of effective practice, and we have to go through making sure that we're following those on a regular basis too. So my real point about all this is we are more than just playing games with kids. And I think sometimes people don't quite understand all that. So that's why I'm telling you all this. We are a nonprofit, which our funding sources come from, we are a United Way agency. Marshtown Community School District provides some funding for us. We have a grant right now currently with Iowa Health and Human Services, and that is a fabulous one focusing on prevention. So one of those prevention thinking is that really looking at the impact a mentor can have on a little in helping them to make good choices and to support them in that. So there are trainings that we provide for our bigs, our parents, and our littles every year, as well as for the community, and our main focus for the last 2 years has been on training on vaping, so that kids have a better understanding of, and parents have a better understanding of the impact that that could have on their child. So, we also rely on donations and fundraisers in order to keep us afloat. So, the world of nonprofits that don't charge for their fees means that it's not always an easy road. But we have, I have persisted in looking for grants to fill those voids that can help us to be a strong agency, that we don't have to worry about that financial component. Instead, what we're doing is really working on what it is our mission is really all about, in making matches, strong mentoring relationships. As an agency, we have an opportunity to do some surveys, and so our Big Brothers Big Sisters of America provides a YOS or a COS, and that's listed on here: Youth Outcome Survey or Child Outcome Survey. The difference is which age that you're giving those children. They complete that at the time that they're matched, and for school-based, they complete that again at the end of the school year. And that helps us to measure some specifics, and those specifics include, let me find the right page, academic performance, depressive symptoms, educational expectations, emotion regulation, family connectedness, police and juvenile court contact, risky behaviors, and school discipline. So we are able to measure if there's been change or improvement in our young people. To be honest with you, we aren't seeing improvement in depressive symptoms. So that's consistently been a struggle, and that is not just the kids that we're working with. I think that's just the impact of that kids are feeling right now. Okay. Our staff is trained in youth mental health first aid, trauma-informed care, and child safety. Child safety is the #1 priority. We have changed in that we are doing a child safety training annually with our kids in order for them to grow up with a new understanding the next year that they're involved with us on what is a good, safe relationship and what's not. Who do you go to if you have questions about some sort of interaction with someone? And so child safety being a priority, it's also a priority with our national office, and they have put a lot of effort into trauma-informed care, and the latest has been having everyone trained in youth mental health first aid. I would say that it's been an interesting challenge to always stay trained on what is the newest, latest thing, and to how can we maybe find funding that would maybe support our efforts in that. As an agency, I just had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. this past week to spend some time talking to our Iowa legislators, and this was an effort on a national level from Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, asking them to continue to support OJJDP funding, which is Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention money, that is really about prevention, and that it is earmarked for mentoring. We had a grant with this through the state of Iowa that was that funding source, and that grant is completed. We hope to be able to secure some of that funding again, because that is what helps us to be able to do some of those consistent things as far as some of these other bigger ones are able to pay staff. The Community Foundation, the Variety Club, most of those grants don't want to cover your staff costs. So that's where those other funding sources have really been able to help keep us to be a stable place where I can pay my staff more than they would get if they started at Walmart. So that has been a constant thing that I've really worked hard to make happen, and our board has been very good about that as well. So when I was in Washington, D.C. asking our legislators from Iowa, all of the states were being asked the same kinds of things, and OJJDP funding was one of them, youth mental health funding, and Rise Up, which is a career readiness kind of funding source that is in the works. And so knowing that those are things that often can be avenues that we would use in order to help that enhance that mentoring relationship that we have with our kids and to really prepare them for what's happening in the world. I am also going to tell you a little bit about each of the kids that we have an application from. We interview and we try to assess them for ACEs. If you know what ACEs are, adverse childhood experiences. And when we look at the number of potential ACEs, that also gives us some understanding as to what's going on that this child might have, that maybe a trigger as to why they might shut down if they're meeting with their big. But it also helps us with being able to make some recommendations to the big about what kind of activities that might be really helpful. And some of the most simplest things, like playing a game where you're taking turns back and forth, can be a very healing thing for a child. Plus the role modeling that's happening about appropriate responses when things aren't going your way, that they are also seeing from that big. So those are some of the other things that are not about playing games, but yet they still are. So I'm going to turn it over to Desiree.
Hello. So my name is Desiree, and I am the school-based mentor coordinator for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I do the Marshalltown schools. So as part of our program, we match bigs, primarily high school students, but we have adults as well, and we have littles in all of our elementary schools in Marshalltown, as well as at Lenahan and at Miller. We currently have about 57 matches just in our school-based program, which has been just great. We have a lot of great high school students and adults that have just chosen to do our school-based program. The school-based program just means that they are meeting at the child's school, so you don't meet necessarily outside of school. It's just during the school day when school is in session. They meet for maybe 30 to 45 minutes. We find a time that works best for the big and for the little. And during that time, they do play a lot of games, do crafts, but we also try and do like a monthly topic that we have them discuss together. Like Lynn talked about vaping. We also try and do, something on internet safety. We'll have like some conversation starter questions, maybe a worksheet or something for the big to go over with their little. We'll do something on kindness, maybe on peer pressure. We just kind of have something every month. So just so that child can just get that from their big, because their big just means so much to them. And so hearing that from somebody else, somebody that really they look up to, it just really helps a lot as well. So and as part of the process for our bigs, we do, they do their application, and then we do references and background checks on all of them. And then we also do an interview for all of our bigs as well. It's a really great program for bigs and littles, because for the bigs, we're just able to kind of give them those skills that they might need even for later on in life, just interacting with others, just doing an interview. Sometimes it's the first interview they've ever had before. So it's a really good experience for them as well. And then the littles, it's just the highlight of their day when their big comes to see them. Their face just lights up whenever they talk to me. I go into the schools every month and do match support. So that means I meet with the littles every month and I talk to them about how things are going with their big, if they have any concerns or questions, and I do the same thing with our bigs. I just kind of find out from them what they've been doing, how things are going, if they have any safety concerns or anything like that with the bigs as well. Just sometimes I'll ask the littles a question like, how do you think you've changed since you've had a big? And it's really cool to just even hear the littles talk about how they think they've changed. A lot of them will say, I'm a better friend to my peers, or I'm getting, I'm more focused in class and I'm getting better grades. I've heard, one child say that I'm less depressed, I'm more happy. So just a lot of those really neat things to hear the littles even notice that in themselves, how they have changed. So, yeah. Any questions?
We have served, in 2023, we served 143. We had 143 matches. 28 of those were matched the end of last school year and then rematched in the fall because their high school big graduated from high school. And so we know we always have that kind of turnover, but fabulous that we've got kids that are stepping up and realizing that this is something that they can do, but that it also benefits them. I think they really recognize that how much they are learning and getting from this experience as well. So, any questions? Dr. Schutte can even answer. He actually was matched with his little when he was a first grader, and he's 7th grade now.
Yep.
So it's good.
So you said you had 143 matches in 2023.
Yes,
Is that typical, low, high?
that's high.
It's high, good.
That's high. Yeah.
And is that community and school?
Yes.
Together, okay, great.
So let's suppose that I know a high school student who is not yet 16, but soon will be.
Yes.
How do they apply? If they were interested.
I've been trying to get Lilia to have her sign up. I think
Ah,
I know who
okay.
you're talking about. Yeah. So, yeah, they can, if she's going to be 16, he or she, they're going to be 16 in the next, 3 to 4 months, they can go ahead and apply anytime. It takes a little bit of time to get all the background checks, all of the references and that kind of thing done. That way they're ready to go. When they turn 16, we're able to get them matched right away. So they do have to be able to drive. The 16 is because they have to be able to drive to the child's school unless they have transportation or somebody to transport them.
We have a fabulous relationship with every one of our buildings, between the school counselors and your support people. The high school counseling office, there you go, has applications.
Yes, Pam
And you
Atcher
can
in the
finish
counseling
it and
office.
just drop it off there. And that's how simple that is. Back at the counseling office,
She
and
will,
they help us.
yep, she'll scan them to me once she gets the applications turned in. Mrs. Atcher will, so she's very good about that.
Because I assume you can always use more.
Always. We do have a
Absolutely.
waiting list. Yes. We usually probably have about 30 on the waiting list every year. Most of those are probably boys, but we never do run out of kids. We do run out of the volunteers. So if you know somebody, it's never a bad thing to say, hey, I think you'd be really good at this, because I don't always think people think about themselves as volunteering for that. So please do our legwork for us and help recruit. We would appreciate it.
And then how young are your littles? I mean, do you go down to kindergarten?
Usually about first grade, 6 years old is what, and then we'll have littles up to about 7th grade for the school-based program, yeah.
Our community-based, they can stay until they're 18 in our program. And we do have some high schoolers in our program that are community-based.
I would just echo what you said earlier in that, you go into that with the idea of giving, but you wind up receiving
Yeah.
probably as much as you've given it, especially if you have the opportunity to, continue to build that relationship. And it's a lot like parenting, and it has some ups and downs over time, but it's also allowed me to get to know teachers better than I otherwise would, who are connected with the student and working together along with the parent to try to keep things moving in the right direction and stuff. But it's a wonderful experience for the mentors as well
Yes,
as the
very
kids that are involved.
I had a phone call from an 83-year-old woman one time who had moved to Florida. She goes, you would not believe I volunteered and was matched with this young girl. And, we visited my mom at the nursing home and we did Meals on Wheels. And I just never thought, anything was really happening, that the impact wasn't quite what she was thinking, and she didn't see that. Because I just got a letter from her that she was thanking me for how she had spent time with her all those years, and that helped impact or helped motivate her to be a nurse. And so she's married and has 3 kids of her own and is a nurse now. That she just felt like, oh my golly, never would I have guessed that there was some sort of an impact when I was meeting with her. So sometimes it comes later. And the beautiful part is that when it comes, people really recognize it. And we know when we're going into the buildings and we're asking them about their big, we usually see a big smile on their faces right off the bat. So we do know that there is some impact that's happening just by the relationship. But after that, we have the data that shows us more than that. So it's good. We love this. It's good.
Any other questions?
How often does the Big and Little meet? Is it like once a month for like an hour or?
For the school-based program, they meet weekly for about 30 to 45 minutes, yeah, kind of whatever works with their schedule. The community-based program, we usually ask them to try and spend about 4 hours a month with their little, just, about an hour a week is what we're saying, so yeah.
Thank you.
I think like my experience has been probably 30 minutes at the most, and it just depends on, like now that my little is in middle school, it's during the wind time, and it's about a 15 to 20 minute window that we have together. But it's a relatively small commitment. When I got in, I was a little bit worried about my schedule, and I didn't want to do something and then not hold up my end of the bargain. But it's gotten to the point where I feel guilty if I miss, and he definitely looks forward still, amazingly, to me coming and seeing him. So maybe not so much when I tell him to pull up Infinite Canvas.
Yeah, we do some of that too. Let's see how we're doing at school. Sometimes there's kids that have transitioned to a different building, and especially if they're going to the high school, sometimes we're connecting with the social worker, just saying, are they coming to school? Because that's been a concern. They've been really fabulous about that, and we have been known to pick up kids to get them to school. So it's good. We appreciate that relationship, that we can reach out and ask the questions, but be a part of the solution for some of them.
So is there a relationship between the parent and the bigs and the community-based one?
Yes.
There is, okay.
Yes. So for community-based, you're going to probably be making those arrangements to meet with their child through the parent.
Okay.
But we do match support with the parent
Okay.
for a community-based match. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just letting your kid go on with the
That's probably what I do now. I just get to introduce this rock star team here.
Yeah, you can't.
Too close to the other mic.
Yeah. What's wrong?
Can't get
You're too close to these mics.
So we have our CPDLs here, and I'll let them introduce themselves, and they are going to take you through professional learning communities and the structure that we have here at Marshalltown. I know you hear the term PLCs often, probably almost every single board meeting, and today they're going to take you through the structures that we have through a teacher leadership lens and all the different roles that we have here. So thank you. Welcome, guys.
Awesome, thank you. Well, my name is Jenny Allen. I'm going to kick us off today, and I'm the CPDL for College and Career Readiness. Want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Amy.
I'm Jen O'Neill. I am the CPDL for 712 Core, PLTW, and World Language.
I'm Amy Osey. I'm the PLC lead for the Music Performance Group 5 through 12.
I'm Adrienne McLaughlin, and I'm the Hoagland ELL PLC lead.
I'm Sarah Nichols. I'm the Hoagland First Grade Literacy PLC lead.
I'm Julie Thede. I'm one of the CPDLs as well for K-12 specialists and the mentor program.
And I'm Erica Finders. I'm a CPDL for preschool through 6th grade core. So we wanted to just talk with you guys a little bit today about what is a PLC. Like Shauna said, that's a kind of a acronym that we throw out there a lot. But professional learning communities are something that's been really important in Marshalltown. So we wanted to just focus on those a little bit tonight. So PLCs are groups of educators. They meet regularly. They examine student data. They share expertise They work collaboratively to improve teaching skills and academic performance of students. So these are people that meet together on a regular basis, and they focus around 3 big ideas. So they use the solution tree format. So everybody, or most people, have studied this Learning by Doing book. So we use this book as well as our Taking Action book, both from Solution Tree, to focus on those 3 big ideas. And these are common resources that all of our PLCs use. So the 3 big ideas are the focus on learning, a collaborative culture and collective responsibility, and results orientation. So the focus on learning is the fundamental purpose of the school. It's to ensure that all students learn at high levels. This focus on and commitment to the learning of all students is the very essence of that professional learning community. The collaborative culture and collective responsibility is the next big idea. And it just states that educators must work collaboratively to take collective responsibility for the success of each student. The fundamental structure of a PLC is that of collaborative teams of educators whose members work interdependently to achieve common goals, of which members are mutually accountable. So they all work together towards a common goal and they all share responsibility. PLCs are results orientation. So educators in PLCs focus on evidence of students' learning. Then they use that evidence of learning to inform and perform and to improve their professional practice and respond to students who need intervention or enrichment. PLCs focus around or are kind of formed around the 4 critical questions. So they're up there on the screen. What is it we want our students to know and be able to do? How will we know if each student has learned it? How will we respond when some students haven't learned it? And what are we going to do to extend the learning for those students who have demonstrated proficiency? So to get to that question number 1, when the PLCs are focusing on that question number 1, they're unpacking the content standards and they're examining curricular resources. For question 2, they're creating common formative assessments and then analyzing that data. And then for questions 3 and 4, they're using their assessment data to drive instructional decisions, to decide what they're going to do with those students who haven't got it yet or those students who already had it.
Okay, so next we're going to talk through the different layers of support that it takes to have successful PLCs here at MCSD. And those layers of support are listed on this slide, and then we're going to go through details for each of those. So administrators have a critical role with PLCs. They allocate resources. That could be human beings, that could be time, all driven to support that work of the PLC. They collaborate with the instructional coaches at their building to plan building PLC lead meetings, which we'll talk about again on the instructional coach slide. They attend PLC meetings and show their support of that work and how important that is, and also hold team members accountable to that work that they've learned about by attending the PLCs, and support conflict resolution as needed, which is hardly ever because we don't have that. CPDLs also support PLCs. This is a past activity, but we led the CPDL and instructional coach team to create the MCSD PLC implementation guide, which I'm just gonna show you really quickly. This is, well, maybe I am. Can I scroll over? So we did a book study around another solution tree book called Amplify Your Impact. And then we created this rubric kind of thing that explains what the work of a PLC is and what that actually looks like in detail when you're in an effective PLC, when you're in a developing PLC, and this we're going to continue to work on. There's a lot of work to be done in the effective column, so we wanted to just focus on that for quite some time. And we got feedback on this from every teacher in the district through their PLC and made adjustments and revisions. So this is truly a collaborative document. Did I lose that? Okay. So we led the team of coaches and CPDLs that created that document, which really is something that PLCs use as a guide to what their next work should be. Some of us lead monthly PLC lead meetings. I mentioned earlier the building PLC lead meetings, and that works for most leads, but there are also quite a few leads in the district that lead PLCs that span multiple buildings. So we have one of those people with us tonight, so she'll talk about that. But Jenny and Julie lead the meeting of those leads and kind of support them to think about what does it look like when you're working with people across multiple grades and buildings. We also do quarterly check-ins with every PLC lead one-on-one. I had one just before I came up here. We support instructional coaches to plan those building PLC lead meetings as needed, provide additional individualized coaching for leads as needed. We attend PLC meetings as often as we can. And then we also do PD focused on PLCs district-wide as needed.
So an additional layer of support, the instructional coaches also help with a role in the PLCs. They build their own building PLC lead meetings monthly, and oftentimes are collecting feedback from those monthly meetings to help plan what they need to support PLC leads in all of those monthly meetings. Lots of individualized coaching or support for leads. That can look like helping them plan agendas, looking for resources, gathering data, generating some questions that they might want to ask during our PLC meetings that are weekly. They also attend PLC meetings as often as possible. I'd say our coaches probably attend them almost always, just to be a member of the team, but also they're that additional layer of support then too. And then they also help provide building PD focused on PLCs. And then our PLC leads, which you'll hear from some of them here in just a minute, they do a lot of the brunt of the work, as you can see. Starting with some summer PLC prep work, they spend 4 hours in the summer preparing for that role of PLC lead. So that's looking at some research, getting agendas ready, things like that. Obviously, they're the facilitators of those weekly PLC meetings, and then organizing the data so their team can analyze that easily, setting goals and facilitating that work of the SMART goals that the PLCs set so that they can keep coming back to those goals as they analyze the data, and then also creating meeting agendas. You'll get to hear from them about some of those here in just a little bit.
Okay, next we're going to talk about the teacher's role. So they are collaborating with all the other positions that you just heard about, and they're the ones that are making it happen in the classroom. So they're implementing the guaranteed and viable curriculum, so they're making sure that their content, whatever they're teaching, is taught at the appropriate level, the appropriate pacing, and the appropriate rigor. They're attending PLC meetings with their PLC lead, and those are happening at least weekly, or if they're a specialist, it might be once every 6 days on their 6-day cycle. They're analyzing that student data together collaboratively, making those decisions about how they're going to best impact student learning, and then implementing it into their classroom. And they take that collective responsibility that we talked about in the big ideas for all students served in the PLC. So that's kind of embracing that idea that these kids are our kids. All kids are our kids, and we're all, it's important for all of us to take that on and make sure that all kids learn at the highest level. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the opportunities that we have offered for professional growth. So our district professional development calendar has dedicated time for PLC learning, so building capacity for staff, and then also allowing them some time to dig into the work in their PLC team. Solution Tree is that model that we're using. So Jenny talked about that earlier. That's that company that we have based all of our PLC work or our model off of. So teachers have had, in all of those roles that we talked about, both teachers, teacher leaders, administrators have had opportunities to attend these professional development conferences, workshops outside of the district, and then bring the learning back. The fourth bullet down there, providing soluciones, that's super exciting, that's coming up. So Solution Tree is going to be coming to us. You probably have heard a little bit about this on April 14th and 15th. And they're going to be here on site at 15th and 16th, sorry. 15th and 16th, that would have been Sunday. So they're going to be here on site at MHS, and they're bringing the conference to us. So we're super excited about that. And then also district-led PLC meetings, you've heard a little bit about that, and district and building-led PLC meetings. Next, we're going to have our 3 teachers that are PLC leads talk a little bit about their experiences with PLCs and leading them and the impact that it's had on teacher instruction and student learning.
Yeah, I just can't say enough good things, honestly, about just the trajectory of our PLCs here in Marshalltown. And I want to thank just the flexibility of our district. Like, we started out, so I teach ELL, I'm Adrienne McLaughlin, and we started out several years ago as all the elementary ELL teachers working together, which is a fantastic team, amazing. But we had so many different buildings trying to make a decision together. One, it's paralyzing to say, how do we measure English growth? Everyone just sits like, what, how do you measure it? You know, there's so many different ways you could take that. And different teams had different visions based on what their school needed, as it should be. And so just the flexibility in the district to say, hey, let's do smaller but mighty teams. So we kind of ended up breaking it down. For a year, we were 2 buildings together, meeting virtually. And now we're just, every elementary school has their own PLC team. And so I've gotten to lead the Hoagland team, which has been amazing. We've really just seen collaboration across the district still in deciding how to measure that growth. And we've really focused on writing, because for English learners and for really any of us learning a second language, like, writing is just always the most challenging. Like, when I'm trying to work in my second language, it's my writing that makes me look like I'm 5, you know? And so we've really focused on what do our kids need to be able to write really effectively in English. And that usually, as we said, is the slowest thing to grow. And so it's helped us really look at data. We've developed common formative assessments. We're now working at 5 grade levels to do that. So kindergarten through 4th grade. And every unit, we bring a piece of writing and say, okay, how do we score this? We have common rubrics that we use across the district. That's helped me as a slight alarmist. You know, I'm like, this kid's not learning anything. And then I look, I'm like, actually, you know what? I really see some solid growth. I can calm down, you know? And it's really helped us then respond to data instead of just that gut instinct of, oh, I'm alarmed about this kid. Or vice versa, when you're like, they're getting it. And then you look at their CFA growth and say, maybe they're not, and what can I do? And so we mentioned those 4 steps a few slides back. But where our team is at is we're really working on, like, okay, now we really have solid CFAs. We have a solid way to get data. So now, how do we really respond to that as a building team? My team's been phenomenal to work with. And so it's just exciting now to be in that place where, like, I feel like I'm actually responding to data instead of just, what am I doing tomorrow? You know, and kind of in that place. Or how do I know my kids are actually learning? We take 1 major test a year. That's not a good measure. But now we have those CFAs. And so just the PLC process and the guidance we've had just district-wide has been really amazing and kind of walking us through that instead of us kind of feeling our way in the dark. So it's been a fantastic process for us.
All right, I am Amy Ossie with the Performance Music PLC. And so our process, our PLC includes teachers from 5th through 12th grade. So we work with a wide range of students at different grade levels. A couple of years ago, we began our process by really intensively figuring out what the essential standards were. Our standards are pretty broad, and there are 4 big main areas, but then within them, they're sort of specific, not specific enough always, but we really dug into those to kind of figure out what's essential for our music students to know and be able to do in each building and as a district and within our program. We ended up agreeing on 4 essential standards, with 2 of them coming out of the performance strand and 1 coming out of the responding and the creating standards. And so really being able to focus that and figure out what really is important for our kids. We are the performance ensembles, so obviously the performing takes a priority over writing and creating and doing all of those things, and yet that is part of being a well-rounded musician, and so we're wanting to incorporate as much of that as possible. But at the end of the day, we all have performances that we have to give, and people expect them to be at a certain level. So, but I think our work, what is challenging for us is just figuring out how we make it work for 5th through 12th grade. We're dealing with a wide range of ability levels, from those first kids coming in on horns and string instruments to the kids who are making it into All-State and doing some fabulous things. So figuring out how we can make those essential standards work for all of those kids is what our PLC has really been working on. As a team, we had a goal to really figure out, again, and it kind of leads back to those essential standards, what our SMART goal was going to be in terms of, as a team, what do we really want to work on and focus on and look at. And so with the curricular resources that are part of our curriculum review a couple of years ago, using Music First and Smart Music, now it's called Make Music. I still call it Smart Music. It's a hard process. But through those resources, we are really able to do some assessing and find out what kids do know and what they don't know. And so our SMART goal has been around rhythm reading and recognizing that that's a skill that any musician needs to have from kindergarten through 12th grade. But if they're a performing ensemble, they need to be able to see what's on the page and understand what that rhythm is. So that's been a large focus for us. Being able to, and again, kind of going back to what Adrienne was saying, now that we have the data and we can use those resources and say, you know, little Amy doesn't quite get what the 8th notes and 16th notes are doing. Now we can look at that and help them, or it's also obvious when we have kids who are just excelling way beyond what we think. So working as a team to examine that data has been a big process for us. And then finally, I've been lucky to work with a team that we enjoy being together. When we have a chance to just get together at somebody's house, that's a great experience for us. But the PLC process has also allowed us to really be a cohesive team as a department at school. And it allows us to really look at what works best for our kids when they're learning. And if they're not finding success, how can we help not only the kids, but each other with better practices to help them?
So I just wanted to share a way that the PLCs do focus on learning, not only the students learning, but also us as teachers as well. So this summer I was taking some of the Bobcat University classes that are offered for teachers, and I just kept coming across this one researcher. Her name was Anita Archer, and she taught explicit instruction. And our curriculum that we use is absolutely fantastic for literacy. We see KLA. It's fantastic. It has a lot of direct instruction with it, though, which sometimes gets a bad rap as that it's boring or the kids get really unengaged during it. And this book showed strategies to keep a whole class engaged during direct instruction. So I brought that book to my PLC, and then during our weekly meetings, we read a little chunk of it, and then we find strategies that we can apply in our teaching during our skills and our knowledge time. And it's just been awesome to see the amount of more kids responding during the time and how more engaged they are, and then how that affects our instruction and how their scores are going up. So this is a great time to be able to learn both with students and then with as teachers as well. And then an example of how we're collaborative and focusing on results. So every skills unit that we have, there's a test at the end of it, and then we use that data to see which students, like the question said, which students understand that, which students still need some reteaching, which students have already mastered that. So then we look at that data, and then according to PLC, whichever teacher's class had the highest score, then they teach the kids that are still beginning, that need the reteaching. The teacher with the middle score gets the kids that are kind of like at benchmark. They understood it. They just needed maybe a little bit more exposure. And then the teacher with the lowest score actually gets the highest kids. And that way also, like, it's so that we're all responsible for every one student. So we're all working together to make sure all kids are receiving and being understanding the instruction they need. And then we reteach that during a time called Let Flex. It's just a 15 to 20 minute time of the day where we reteach the skills from the previous unit to make sure that students are understanding it. And yeah, it's like I said, we mix up classes, so we get to see kids from different classes, and then we just work on those skills. And an example, it's so important, we were just finishing our last unit. It hit during January where we had a lot of illness and some snow days and some 2 hours late, but those kids that maybe missed that instruction because of illness are now getting it during our Lit Flex time. So it's just great that they're getting that extra dose of it. And yeah, PLC is just a fantastic time. And another good thing about PLC is all of this should be happening during the school day. So we just really, if you want teachers to do this, you need to give teachers time. And so we appreciate that the district has given us time to do it in our weekly PLC meetings and then like during our Lit Flex and Math Flex time. So we appreciate the time to be able to do PLC.
Any questions for us?
Well, over the years, we've sent a lot of people to PLC summits, workshops, etc. I think more so than anything in my career that people have ever gone to, they come back totally excited about the possibilities and potential. And I want to give kudos to Shauna for, we sent, I think it was 2 years ago, 40-some people to Houston, I think, or San Antonio for Los Soluciones, and they came back even more excited than the regular summits. And then when we found out, we were excited about sending more people this year, and we found out they weren't offering it. So how we got them to agree to allow us, Shauna works some magic to make that happen. But I know that, in addition to our people who are all going to participate in that, there's a lot of excitement across Iowa and similar schools to ours that they can have this experience without having to travel to Texas or New Mexico or what have. And
Sarah went.
what's that?
Did you go?
I did, yeah. It was amazing. Yes.
So it's going to be an amazing couple days, I think, for not only our staff, but for the community too, if they take advantage of the community presentation with Louise Cruz. And we're trying to work out something with live on stage for people to be able to take advantage of that too. So, which is that Monday night, I believe.
It's almost sold out.
Yeah, over 600.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
So it'll be really good for Marshtown. There'll be probably a couple hundred people coming in from outside, staying in hotels, using restaurants.
So, I'm not quite sure how to phrase this question, so I'm just going to say, what did we do before we did PLCs?
Big question.
Well, I know when I started at the district, like in 1998, we had collaborative time. I worked collaboratively with another 8th grade teacher when we planned, but we didn't really have a process to focus our work. We did a lot of, what are we going to do this week? Here we're going to give the test. This is what our test is going to look like. But we never had a chance or a structure to come back and look at the student data and really think about what we could do to help kids who didn't get it or to accelerate kids who already had it. We did a lot of planning, but this definitely is more purposeful and more data-driven.
I would just add to that too, what Sarah mentioned, which is like, he didn't, and you said it too, like now we have structures in place. So we've, at the elementary level, we have a math flex time and a lit flex time where teachers can take time to respond to those, where we maybe didn't have that carved out before. So it was harder to like fit that in when you knew kids needed something extra. It's like, what are you going to give up? And then the time during the day dedicated to that work too, I think may or may not have been there before.
I would echo that for secondary too. We have some built-in intervention time at both the middle school and the high school where we can use some of the data that they're looking at to do some interventions or some extensions. And also, I think the district has really, each building administrator has really made dedicated PLC time for teams that may or may not have existed before. We may have been meeting or collaborating before or after school instead of during the day during a dedicated PLC time. And that's, when you go to these conferences, that's really huge. The structure has to include dedicated time for this work. So,
from my point, my team, simply because of the structure of our schedules and dealing with 5th through 12th grade in 3 different buildings, we still are one of the groups that has to meet after school. We meet 3:30 to 4:15, but we do it weekly. And prior to that, it really was just job-alike meetings. To go back to Sean's question, once a month we'd have a job-alike where all of the 5th through 12th grade staff might be together, or it might just be instrumental talking, and it was used a little bit more as a department meeting and not as focused on the data. So it's nice to work together with my team, and we look at it, even it doesn't matter if you're a 5-6 teacher or a 9-12, what we're teaching, we're still teaching the same thing in my department. So there are ways that we can help each other, and that's what's been really helpful.
Other questions or comments?
I love the idea, just in general, that everyone is talking to each other and that you're using data to make the decisions of what you're going to do next, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
So I came to the board meeting tonight to talk about some full-time teaching positions that we need. Actually, it's not 3 full-time, looking at 2.5. And I'd just like to explain a little bit of why we need these positions at the high school. The first one's related to music. And if you go to the next slide, currently at the 5th grade level, Paul Sybil works and introduces the 5th and 6th grade students to band. He's got quite a few numbers there, as you can see. You can also see in the COVID year when numbers kind of dropped off. But they've come back up, and he gets to meet with students on a 6-day rotation. I don't know a lot about that 6-day rotation, but that's how he manages those numbers. 7th and 8th grade, there's one band teacher at the middle school, and then my 2 band teachers each go down there 1 period to support that one band teacher there. And then at the high school, we have 2 band teachers. At the high school, they teach 2 periods, one on A day, one on B day, and then again, they go down to the middle school for a period each day. And then they have time during the day to provide lessons to the students, individual lessons or group lessons if necessary. Like right now, they're getting ready for solo and ensemble, so then they can do like a quartet or a trio. And the next slide, you heard Ms. Osi just talk about how their group and how it's, again, a 5 through 12 system. We have music at Lenahan. For a while there, you know, you can kind of see where we didn't have a music teacher there. The 5th grade music, orchestra or choir person teaches all the students in 5th grade. 100% of the 5th graders, 100% of the 6th graders in 14 sections over that 6-period rotation. The teachers rotate in through their homeroom groups. 7th and 8th grade, you're missing our choir person there. So Mrs. OC goes there 2 periods a day, first thing in the morning, 7th grade one day, 8th grade the next day. She comes back and then she does choir with our kids in that next block. So her morning is stuffed. She has some time in the afternoon to provide some individual lessons for students, but she's running pretty good, right? But even when she wasn't teaching at the Miller, she went over there and provided support to the choir person that was there. So my ask is about orchestra. So the orchestra teacher, Mr. Clausen, he starts at the high school and teaches 1 period. And then on the other day, he has his plan. That's his only plan that he has. Then he races over to Lenahan and he works with the 5th and 6th grade orchestra students. And if I remember right, Maggie Stalzer used to say that she ate her lunch in her car on her way to Miller in the afternoons, where then she would meet with the 7th and 8th grade students. So the orchestra teacher does not have a time built in the day where they can provide individual lessons for the students. In fact, at the high school, he has organized a chamber orchestra, so a higher level of orchestra for the high school students, and he meets with them during an intervention time. So you just heard the CPDLs talk about for the students who already get it, those accelerated students, so that's who I'm talking about. The accelerated orchestra students, they meet during intervention time on Mondays for orchestra to get it, to work with a higher level, more rigorous music pieces. Does not get any support during the day, cannot provide lessons. So this has been going on for a number of years, first with Maggie, and then now with Ms. Maggie. I can't think of Maggie's last name. Keep calling the wrong one. But Stagner? Yes. Thank you. I said Stalzer, I think, the first time. Stagner. And then Derek. They just needed support. So we think that if we could get another orchestra teacher in the district, we could provide support for students and see less reduction in the numbers there. I think if you look at that diagonally, you can see how the numbers go down in 7th grade. And then from 8th grade, you start at 8th grade and you can see them go down. We'd like to see those numbers stop going down. So those big numbers that he's got recruited there, he's taken the high school students down to Lenahan and is recruiting students into orchestra, which is a great thing, right? But we want to see those numbers stay strong like that all the way through the system. So that's one position, and that's the data to support it. Ms. Gray came to us a few years ago out of BCLUW. She started with us part-time in the afternoons, in the mornings, and then she'd go to BCLUW. She is developing these pathways, and it's taken her about 4 years to get there. But if you count all of those courses, there's 13 courses, and there's only 12 sections for her to teach. So that's part of the problem. There's not enough of her already. And then, in order to take many of those classes, you have to take Intro to Ag. This year, we are offering Intro to Ag to 86 students. So 2 years ago, there were 40 students in Ag. This year, there are 132 students in Ag. 36 of them are FFA members from 13 last year. And next year, she's already up to 150, and we're not done registering. So 2 classes that she's adding next year are college-level courses through Ellsworth. One of them is the Survey of Animal Industry, and the other one is the Principle of Agronomy, along with a Supervised Ag experience, which is that work-based learning experience that we've been really working hard to get to in CTE. So she's built out these programs, and I don't have enough of her. So in anticipation of that, I'm asking for a half-time ag teacher. We've got a couple of people, one person who's not in the district who might fit this very well. She is a current sub, so we might lose a sub, but she'd be interested in working part-time if that need should arise, if the numbers keep supporting the need for more ag teacher. And then finally, the last one is not an Orpheum coffee shop teacher. But we do have the coffee shop uptown, which would provide a great work-based learning place. So to run the coffee shop, there's a lot of food preparation that goes in there. There's also management, customer service, barista training, doing inventory and sales and accounting, and that begins to cross over with the CTE department. So primarily an FCS position, but you also see things in there like accounting that are related to business, and marketing, which is also another faction of the FCS department. But there are ways for the CTE to bring together experiences for students in that workshop, including some of our students with disabilities. So we have a work experience program in the high school. Those adults go out with our students with disabilities to help them gain the experiences and mindsets about working, those soft skills that we talk about a lot about with our students. And we need to help prepare them as well as all of our gen ed students for life after high school, that post-secondary experience. So this is a great opportunity for us to get that Orpheum coffee shop up and running, have another space for an FCS teacher, because right now, even with the new commercial kitchen, I have so many students wanting to get into the FCS program, and that includes fashion designs, the foods classes. I have way too many students to offer culinary apprenticeship because I only have one teacher there in the morning. This person could be another person in the afternoon and offer that culinary apprenticeship program, which is a certification through Marshalltown Community College, as well as earning, what am I thinking here? An industry credential in ServSafe, in the right order, ServSafe. We want to add 2 of them. Actually, one is ServSafe Management, the other one is ServSafe Food Handling. So a lot of, again, really digging into that work-based learning experience and bringing that culminating activity for our students in the FCS program, along with business as well. We also envision that there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurship through the use of the Orpheum. Students who design some type of product, maybe they could sell it out of the Orpheum or work at the Orpheum and make products, or we're limited by our imagination. So we want students to have that experience. And Amy Balfock currently goes up to the Orpheum and teaches a class there on entrepreneurship. So we want to tie that in together. So altogether, on the next slide, that's 2.5 FTE that I'm asking for approval to add at the high school.
Any questions?
Most of these positions we've been talking about for years, particularly orchestra, in terms of when's the right time to expand that program. I know Maggie met with me at least 2 or 3 different times, as well as the band department and others. And, you know, FCS has been one of our most popular elective courses within the CT area for a long, long time. And then ever since we were in a position to acquire the Orpheum, and probably the most often question I get asked in the community is, when are you going to get something going, you know, with that coffee shop? And so I think it's a great time. We're well positioned financially and otherwise to expand in these areas. And I think by approving it, there'll be a lot of excitement about the future additional course offerings that will appeal to our kids.
Are there any chances with the orchestra role to have that be a more broad music-based role versus focus solely on orchestra? Just when I look at the numbers, it seems like there is potential for support in other areas as well.
Absolutely. We could get fully staffed and everything we could have. Miss Lucy would definitely tell you that they would support each other. I think you might have heard that from her in their collaboration, that absolutely. Just like we expanded to mariachi, right? And then chamber orchestra, there is that potential as long as we can free him up, right? Or free up others to support each other in that way. Yep.
So we see a lot of growth with the student interest in these areas, which is prompting the need for this. These positions, at least 2 of them, have a sign-on bonus, correct? I believe, from what
I don't know that I've posted any of these with the sign-on bonus.
I think we approved it last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so do we anticipate it being hard to find these teachers?
Well, the orchestra one, we need to get in front of that right away because Des Moines has moved orchestra out of 4th grade and starts in 5th grade, so there will be some displaced people there. So there's an opportunity there. I mentioned that we have someone who's potentially interested in the ag. We also have somebody interested in FCS, which in particular is usually a hard to find position, but we got some major networking going on. If you could find me 4 math teachers, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, right? The student interest isn't growing there?
Yeah, traditionally, these are all hard to fill positions, but it's been strange. You know, we needed 3 FCS teachers a year ago and we found 3, which who knew, you know, and then it's just hard to know, but definitely the sooner that we can get these jobs posted, the better we are of securing high quality people.
So we have additional interest in these areas. Are there other areas at the high school where you're seeing student interest waning?
Waning? No, we have such a large population that getting as many electives in there as we can is helpful. What'll happen is in industrial arts, they'll open that new facility in the fall, but there's just the 3 teachers. And for safety reasons, we really do have to limit the class size. So there will be some students who might not be able to get in next year for that particular area. So it'd be nice if we had another one of those too.
And that's an area that in the recent past we've expanded from 2 full-time to 3 full-time teachers.
We did. And I think one of the things we've talked about when I've been here to talk about staffing is that it's a lot to do with the teachers. And I think you could probably ask the students the same thing, or your own children. If the teacher is very dynamic and really cares a lot about what they're teaching and engages the students in some meaningful activities, like Miss Gray, that the program's just going like crazy. We saw over the weekend we had 2 teams earn a first place, right, in their competition, and they're going on to nationals. And I just got goosebumps now just thinking about that, because that team is only 2 years old. They're a very young team, and so they've gained so much momentum already.
Any other questions?
Like during the school day, you mean? Because like you're involved in a class right now and you have your clinicals, right, in that class, right? And then, introduction to education, they're out right now. The child development students are out right now in their work-based learning experience. Culinary apprenticeship, they're out right now during the day in their work-based learning experience. So we really want to just keep pushing that and give them opportunities like Natalie's pointed out. Sometimes it's hard with the job or activities after school to get the work-based learning, and which adds to their resume, makes them a better employee.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion to approve the additional staffing as presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
Hernandez, Wall, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Now go hire him. You ready, girls?
Good afternoon. So there's going to be a shoe drive to help the speech and debate team, and they're collecting from today to May 31st. So there's going to be an upcoming winter band concert at Marshalltown High School in the auditorium, February 26th at 7 p.m. Admissions is $6, and they'll have symphonic band, wing symphony, and mariachi band.
That one actually already happened.
And then we're going to have an orchestra spring concert tomorrow, March 5th, at the MHS auditorium. It's going to start at 7, and there won't be any admission fee, so anybody is invited. It's going to be featuring our Lenahan students all the way to our high school students, so 5th to 12th grade. Also, our high school chamber orchestra and our Miller Mariachi will be playing as well.
MHS Theater recently put on a play this past weekend. It was $6 admission, and it was called The Actor's Nightmare. I was kind of a little upset that I wasn't able to go, but I heard from my friends that it was really good.
And then we finally have a date for the reading night that the NHS will be hosting. It's going to be March 7th, so this Thursday, at the Orpheum between 5 to 7. And so we're going to be hosting a lot of activities such as reading corners. All of our NHS members will be participating in one way or another. And so we're going to have our students reading to children, both English and Spanish readers. And we're doing something fun like a book-themed dress-up. So our readers will be dressing up. I know we're having a Thing 1 and Thing 2 and the Cat in the Hat. And then if you give a mouse a cookie and if you give a cat a cupcake. So trying to bring a little bit of fun into it. And then we're having some coloring stations, and the main thing was being able to provide children with a free book that they could pick out. So at the high school, we did a book drive to kind of collect a couple of books for this event. And then our snacks will also be provided. So yeah.
Shauna and Abby might have some suggestions on snack distribution, the do's and don'ts.
And then we're also, like we mentioned before, in the beginning of the meeting was the National School Breakfast Week. And so it's going on, it started today, all the way till the 8th. And so we're bringing all of the favorite breakfasts back. And it's an exciting way to start the day, I think.
I'm so excited for
Yes.
Friday.
I didn't know it started today.
Yeah. And so, yeah, breakfast sandwich. I'm looking forward to that.
Tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
Early.
Yeah. Any questions?
Where would one donate shoes if they would like to help?
You would go to the school and you would specifically ask for the speech and debate team.
Okay. Thank you.
Are they taking like any shoes?
Any shoes.
And do you have any idea what they're doing with them?
I was wondering
I'm
that.
not sure. Honestly, I can look into that.
I might have some stinky
I mean, I've probably got some
What
shoes.
conditions do the shoes need to be in?
Depends on what we're doing with them. Okay. Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay up for the book talk, that'd be great. So, we had chapters 7 and 8, I think. When Privilege and Poverty Unite and Becoming a Global Citizen. Any highlights for people in terms of what they read? Anything that stuck out to them or stuck with them?
So actually, something that came out tonight, so Lynn from Big Brothers Big Sisters was talking about like how some of the students aren't very like outgoing, and you have to really be the first person to say hi and be outgoing and engage with other people. And that was one of the, I felt like, themes in chapter 8 was when you're part of being a global citizen is being able to be the first person and not be, to say hi and not be scared to just kind of put yourself out there. And I think that's, you know, some of the concepts in that chapter I related to fairly well with lots of international travel and working with folks from different countries and things like that that I do with my job every day. So maybe not tying it so much to students, but then I do see that with my children as well, where they like struggle to, well, what do I say when I go to the pharmacy? What do I say? And making kind of that first step. So I think that's a theme that needs to be addressed, I guess, with all ages. Like just having that confidence to kind of start a conversation.
Yeah, I think that theme in his story runs all the way through the book from an early age, where he talks often about taking risks and you know, what do I have to lose? I can ask them, you know, for an interview or ask them for a audition or do whatever. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Be told no, but maybe something will happen. And he's had a number of instances in his life where, because he took the initiative and that impressed people or was the starting of building a relationship, it led to something better even better down the road, or a connection that helped him down the road.
And to tie that back to something that Jackie said like 15 minutes ago, right, about work-based learning and those sorts of things and helping kids develop and enhance those soft skills that you're going to need someday, right?
Every day.
I read something about incorporating failure into the school experience, and I connected that with, so I do soccer over there in Des Moines, and something that you hear often a lot, I'm sure Natalie's heard this too, is it's practice. It's okay to try something new. It's okay to fail. It's practice. Like, we're preparing for games. Like, failure is okay because we're at practice. And I realized that that definitely did help me gain confidence during games to try something new, to take the initiative to do something that I wouldn't purposefully or in the past do. And I feel like if we were able to incorporate something like that, where we gave students like a safe and a safe place for them that they know that they can fail, and that like make school a welcoming place for failure, so that in the future, when they do encounter failure, which is inevitable, they won't be so shocked or sad or let down about it.
Wow, that was great. Good job.
Another thing to kind of tie in what all of you are saying, like, for example, the soft skills and the ability to fail and overcome that, like see your failure and still keep going. I liked how he mentioned the importance of cultural capital, and when I first read that, I wondered what that is. And he describes it as quality education, resources to social networks, and material possessions. But he also mentions the importance of like relationships and not just using each other to like get something, but actually making networks that help each other. And in Marshalltown, you see a lot of businesses and institutions working together to make new programs and progress. So that's something I feel like education sometimes really hones on getting like good grades and looking for a career that will help you financially, but doesn't always teach you how to talk to others or connect with others. So, yeah.
Something that I highlighted, I have it on my phone, but I thought it was a beautiful phrase that he mentioned on chapter 8. It said, "If you impact even just one person, you have made a difference. Each of us has this ability should we choose to exercise it. By instilling this mindset today, the potential for significant change is unlimited." And so I thought it was kind of a beautiful reminder to each and every one of us that even by making a small, like the small little things that we do in our everyday lives kind of impacts on the people that you interact with. And so I was really reminded of that when we had the talk with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, where you seeing all of that impact, where even if in the moment you don't feel like you're making a difference, in the end you truly are doing something wonderful. So yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah. And it's also important to remember that you can have positive and negative impacts, right? And so you may not realize that you're having a negative impact on someone, but you are, and that also multiplies forward too, the same way that having even a small positive impact on somebody can multiply forward. So. Shauna, you look like you have something to say.
I do.
I mean, you snuck all the way over there.
So, Leah's "this is not real life" kept ringing through my head when I was reading. It took me a while to work that out. But I really thought on page 105, when you read kind of in the middle of the page about school board members and superintendents have maybe worked to like continue disadvantaged students down a disadvantaged pathway, if that makes sense. It kind of opened my eyes a little bit that like, man, I really feel like the work we do together is always looking out for all kids, and it just, that that is our real life here in Marshalltown, and how maybe sometimes we take that for granted. We're not sitting here trying to create more achievement gaps. We're trying to eliminate them, and that's really hard work. But never have I been here in a day at Marshalltown feeling the way that was described in that paragraph. So I just felt really grateful for the work that we do, including you three girls.
Yeah, I agree, Shauna. I hope we've never gate-kept resources for anybody. I've never felt like we have, but that's a really excellent point.
Yeah, I think, because I've experienced a little bit of that in my past where people think of equity and equality synonymously, and they don't understand that some people, some adults, some students need different types of supports, need more supports in order to ultimately be positioned for success moving forward. I think that's one of the beautiful things about both the Marshalltown Community School District that I recognized from the moment I came back home, and the community overall too. I think they get it, and for the most part, it is all means all in terms of, lifting all boats to be positioned for success. And I thought it was really interesting to read about, the work that he did in India, helping to support that new school that was designed to address the needs of the most needy in India, the people that were, classified through their caste system as untouchables, or, not in any kind of position whatsoever to ever be raised out of poverty, and, talking about having to break that cycle by basically creating a boarding school where the kids lived and studied there. And I've seen that sort of arrangement myself when I had an opportunity to visit China as well. And, it's great that we don't have to create schools like that, but it's critically important that we keep in front of us the equity piece and the fact that we are going to have to do different things for different kids, different things for different schools, different things for different families sometimes, in order to, again, provide them an equal shot for success post-secondary. And I think Marshalltown does a phenomenal job of that. When we see, prior to COVID, over 90% of our students graduate, which hadn't probably happened in 30-some years. And, I'm very excited about us eventually getting back to that level. It really says that we're doing a lot to help all kids be positioned for success. I also thought it was really neat how he was connecting kids from different schools. And so I'll be very interested when we have the opportunity to have him come here and work with students, but also talk with us about ways that we might be able to better connect, our kids with kids from other places to learn. I mean, we have that right within our schools, given there's upwards of 40 to 50 different languages spoken, but, make some of those classroom connections to talk about maybe common topics, common themes, but from different perspectives, I think would be extraordinarily powerful.
Anything else from anybody? Okay. Well, thank you.
You guys always have great insight.
You do, yes.
So impressed.
Nope, the other one. There we go. All right, I am here tonight to discuss the next phase of the certified budget process. So next slide there, Amy. Just a real quick recap of just the last board meeting. As we discussed, the certified budget process is twofold. It meets the statutory process and timeline for establishing the property tax rate, as well as publishing the estimated consolidated expenditures for various district funds of the district, the general fund being the largest component of that. Two primary drivers that we have with our budget are certified enrollment and state supplemental aid, which as of today, that still has not been set yet. Anticipating 2.5% to 3%, but we will see what happens with the folks down in Des Moines here over the next few days or weeks. I don't know, depending on how long it takes them to do that. Next slide. Again, just some of the changes. The certification date's been changed from April 15th to April 30th. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I think that's a bit deceiving with the new steps in the process. Part of what I'm going to ask you as a board to act on tonight. There is a property tax hearing statement that must be created and mailed out to taxpayers, which the county auditor will take care of. We'll have a separate meeting here in the first part of April as part of that new process, and we have to wait until at least March 25th for that meeting. And we also have to submit that information to the Department of Management and the county auditor. Next slide. The aid and levy, a lot of times you'll hear me refer to the school finance formula. That really is the aid and levy document is basically the school finance formula. It breaks down how to generate our certified budget, and it breaks down the school finance formula and calculation of state aid and tax dollars generated for our certified budget. That document is over 400 plus lines long. I know it's hard to see on that slide. You folks at this table have control over 7 of those line items. The majority of our tax rate is driven by the school finance formula and not subject to local discretion. So I'll just quickly go over those line items that you have control over. The first one is the modified supplemental amount for the at-risk dropout prevention program that was presented back to you guys in December, and that helps fund our at-risk programming funding for the following year. There is an income tax or income surtax portion. That's a mechanism that the district is able to utilize for our instructional support program, where we can shift some of the burden of that program from the property taxpayers over to income tax. We do have cash reserve levies, but this is one of the side effects of COVID. As you'll see in one of our forecasting slides later, we've had a slingshot effect with COVID that has allowed us to where we haven't needed to levy a cash reserve. So kind of a good news, bad news scenario. It could depend. It can fluctuate depending, but we've been very responsible with our spending in the last few years, and then that influx of ESSER dollars has allowed us to where we don't need to utilize that cash reserve levy, so that's a good thing. There's also the management fund, which is a use limited fund, meaning we can only levy those taxes to pay for certain things such as our property liability insurance, unemployment claims, early retirement benefits, et cetera. And then the other line item, that you have control over is the regular PEPL, and that you can levy up to 33 cents each year. Just as a reminder, tax rates are a function of the district's taxable valuation of property. As we discussed at the last meeting, we are a district with a lower valuation per student, so our tax dollars have to work harder to get the funding needed that's generated or calculated through the formula. Due to the lower valuations, our property taxes, again, work harder to generate those funds needed to fund that combined district cost, whereas a district with the higher valuations, those dollars don't have to work as hard. So, in Okoboji, they can have a lower tax rate because they're generating more tax dollars than we are here in Marshalltown. Next slide. Quick recap of the changes that we reviewed at the last meeting. Again, I think that's a repeat. Anyway. Again, that certification date's been moved, and the documents in the extra hearing. The documents needed for that first public hearing, the first one's the tax summary statement. That'll be sent out by the county auditors. That will be mailed out by March 20th, so folks will be receiving that in the mail. We have to submit it to the county auditor and the Department of Management by March 15th. The proposed tax notice is the detail, which is what I'll go over here in the next couple of slides, but that is something that we are responsible for. It takes that summary, breaks it down into more detail by fund, and we have to publish that in the newspaper as well as on our website and social media pages. That document sets the maximum amount that the district can tax levy on property tax dollars, not necessarily the rate. So it's important to note that that it's the dollars that are being established, the maximum dollars, not necessarily the tax rate. The rate will be shown on the notice, but it's subject to change and can fluctuate, and won't be finalized until later on in the process once things at the state level have been finalized. So next slide. A little hard to see there, but that's what we're going to be posting, broken out by funds. The other document, Amy, I guess if you want to switch over to that real quick. No, the other document, you opened it first. There we go. Zoom in on that a little bit. That is the proposed property tax notice that will be posted on the website. We are looking at a decrease overall in our tax dollars. And the biggest driver of that decrease heading into next year is the fact that we are currently, in this current fiscal year, we'll be paying off our GO bond debt in May. So our proposed overall property tax dollars being levied is going to be dropping from $17,127,948 down to $17,037,990. Again, this is the maximum proposed property tax dollars we'll be looking to levy. Once things are finalized at the state level, we'll be able to make adjustments, but state law, once things are finalized, only allows you to make adjustments downward, not upward. So we have built a little bit of cushion in there based off of what we know at this time, and we'll be able to adjust our levies down as needed. The other thing to point out is that we can make adjustments within the fund. So for example, we could raise the general fund but lower the management fund if needed, as long as the total tax dollars don't increase over what we're proposing. So at this time, it's showing, we're estimating a tax rate of $14.75, which is a drop from $15.99 in the prior year. If you want to go back to the slides a little bit, Amy, next slide down. I guess it's not much easier to see there, but there's that, there's a middle column there. I mean, it's there for informational purposes only, but it doesn't really impact anything. The column in the middle essentially will just show what the tax rate would be if we were levying the same total dollars in the prior year, but with the current year valuations applied to them. So I think that's just for informational purposes only. I think the focus will be on the difference from the far left column over to the far right column. Again, looking at $14.75 right now, I don't anticipate that to change very much, maybe 2 to 3 cents of the total levy up or down one way or the other, but not significantly. But either way, regardless, we're looking at a decrease from last year. Next slide. I think I've touched on those. There's still several factors that need to be determined at the state level. Again, the main one being state supplemental aid. Once things are finalized, we can make those adjustments. So there you can see the tax asking, the total dollars dropping, and then as well as the change in the tax rate. Okay, that's next slide. I will look into, so here we'll touch on some of our budget projections real quick. So as we shift gears and look at a few of our financial forecasting indicators, this first piece being the certified enrollment. Our certified enrollment for FY25 is 5220. This was the October 23 certified count that we reviewed this past fall. As you can see on the purple bars on the right, we've had some large upswings and downswings the last few years. Events such as the tornado, the derecho, and the pandemic, excuse me, have been contributing factors to those large swings. However, when you look at the blue bars on the right, we've actually held pretty steady over the last 10 years. And over the last 10 years, our average decrease has been 3.28 students per year. So as we're projecting out, so back on the far right side there, the small decreases you see in the outgoing years, we're assuming a decrease of 5 students per year to be pretty well in line with our 10-year average. On the next slide. This slide gives a quick historical and expected snapshot of our property tax rate. This slide is assuming, knock on wood, that the PEPL vote will pass and increase to $1.34, as well as the passage of a bond referendum for Miller Middle School. A couple of things to keep in mind there. If the voted PEPL does pass, and if we were to get a bond referendum to pass, those wouldn't take effect until fiscal year 2026. So heading into next year, we're still at the 67 cents for PEPL. If things fall into place, then we'll be looking at that $1.34 taking effect in the following fiscal year. Similar to PEPL, if a bond measure passes in November, we would likely have a max levy of $270. However, we are forecasting utilizing our sales tax dollars to offset the property tax burden if that referendum is passed. Currently, we're allocating $1 to $1.5 million per year in saved dollars to help abate the debt service levy to help keep that tax rate down at the projected $14.90 to $15 tax rate. I think the highest you see it projected out is $14.96. We also have healthy cash reserves within our general fund. With current projections on staffing, we anticipate not needing to utilize a cash reserve levy in the next few years, so that's also helping to keep the tax rate down, as well as reserves within our management fund are helping to keep the tax rate down as well. So again, a lot of good things that have happened over the last few years to get us in a position to where we can have a lower tax rate than what we've had in several years and hold it steady for the foreseeable future. Next slide. This is probably my favorite slide to look at, just because knowing where we started several years ago and where we are and even where we're going, while there is a decrease going down, it's not a steep drop, and it's a steady drop getting us back to levels that are recommended by state associations as well as our board policy. So the solvency ratio is a measure that provides a picture of our cash resources on hand at the end of the fiscal year. It's impacted by a cash reserve levy, state aid funding, and then how we control our expenditure increases and reductions. IASB recommends a ratio between 7 and 17%, not to exceed 25. Our board policy states that we'll maintain an 8 to 10% solvency ratio. So as you can see, we're well above those metrics and want to spend that back down into a more reasonable level. There are items that we're looking into to shift some general fund costs into the management fund that also will help with our solvency ratio, those being break fix insurance and natural gas pool insurance. There's estimated cost savings at the general fund at this time of about $500,000 that will help keep those metrics where we're at. So but more to come on those in the near future. Next slide is the unspent authorized budget. So while solvency ratio is an important financial metric that a lot of folks from the outside will look at, in the world of school finance, this is probably the most important financial metric to look at. This is what they'll look at the state level as well. This is what is used to really evaluate a school district's general fund financial position. This represents the remaining spending authority, not cash, that the general fund has at the conclusion of each fiscal year. So as a reminder, if a district spending authority ever goes negative, the SBRC will step in as well as the state and say that districts need to come up with a workout plan. If they can't turn that ship around, then the district or the state can come in and shut those districts down. Russell and Farragut are probably the most recent examples of that over the last 15 years or so. So definitely an important metric to watch, but we have a steady enough enrollment that it's not something that we're too concerned with at this point in time. Next slide, just some quick takeaways. SSA for next year has not been set yet, so that's got the red X there with that. Positive, regardless of what happens with SSA, the tax rate, the tax asking will decrease for FY25. Our tax rate projections are on track to stay at the lowest that they have been in several years. Again, those tax rate projections include the assumptions of increasing our voted PEPL to $1.34, as well as levying a bond related to the middle school. We're currently, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're projecting and planning to utilize saved dollars to help stabilize the debt service portion of that levy, assuming that is passed. ESSER dollars will sunset June 30th, 2025. I have a red X there, but I don't really consider that. I consider that more of a neutral than a negative. ESSER has been a large factor in allowing us to get our solvency ratio back up where it needed to be in short order, and we've made a conscious effort to minimize the amount of ESSER dollars spent for ongoing expenditures. So I think ESSER really, that could probably be more of a green check mark, I guess. It got us where we needed to be much quicker than we had originally anticipated. Again, solvency ratio projections are looking strong. That's due to that influx of ESSER dollars as well as our management of expenditures over the last several years. Utilizing management reserves to not only help stabilize the tax rate and increase our solvency. Again, those items that we'll be looking at trying to help with that will be break fix insurance and natural gas pooling. Again, estimated cost savings of $500,000 to our general fund per year. Our UAB continues to stay strong. Again, we have steady enrollment and do not see this metric falling at any point in the near future. Next steps, tonight I'll be asking for feedback from all of you on the proposed tax rate dollars that was presented early in the presentation. Those are due to the county auditor and Department of Management by March 15th so that those tax statements can go out. Statements will be sent out and posted on our website by March 20th. We'll hold a public hearing. That first public hearing will be at our April 1st board meeting. After that board meeting, we'll make adjustments as necessary, and after the state final, hopefully has SSA, I would hope they have SSA finalized by April 1st, but if not, that's a really bad April Fool's joke. But just saying. But we'll make adjustments at that time, and then we'll plan to hold the second public hearing on April 15th. That's kind of more of the normal certified budget process that you've seen in prior years. And then after that, we'll make sure that our budget is certified and submitted by April 30th. So I went through a lot in a short amount of time. So any questions, comments for me?
Let's talk about the solvency ratio a minute.
Let's.
Board policy says between 8 and 10%.
Mhm.
Our goal, IASB, says 17. Any of the finance meetings that I remember being in on for the IASB conferences, they said when it gets too high, it can be a negative thing in some instances. I can't remember why, but can you?
The main negative would be the ability to levy a cash reserve for property tax. So that can cause instability from year to year in the tax rate if your solvency ratio is consistently high, because then you're left with a mechanism to where that's providing volatility and uncertainty for your taxpayers.
Okay.
So that would probably be the biggest thing I could think of off the top of my head why that's a negative. So,
Okay.
and it also gives the impression that you're not investing back into your students and your staff.
Okay, maybe that's
as
something.
much, so.
You're just hoarding cash.
And it just looks like you're hoarding cash, and we're not a bank, right? At the end of the day, we are an educational institution here to educate kids. So we need to make sure that we're maximizing and putting our resources in the kids. Now, one of the challenges we have here in this district, I know Sean and I have had conversations about this, and we'll test too. And I know it's kind of a first world problem that I'm talking about here, but sometimes we have all of these extra categorical fundings, all this extra title, migrant, the additional at-risk funding that we've gotten from buildings that have been identified. So it almost becomes a point where sometimes we have too much money to really feasibly spend in 1 year. And then, so there's been a snowball effect over the last few years with that. So that's a challenge that we're trying to manage through as well. And then when you add on top of that, post-COVID, we're not filling all our positions. So that's a struggle not only for us, but for everybody else too. So all those things, it's kind of almost a perfect storm of everything coming together for that. But again, having been on the other side of the equation, when you've had to sit people down and tell them there's not room for them on the team anymore, I would much rather have this problem than the other.
Yeah, when I started, it was 2019, so it has changed a lot.
Yes.
So just talking
Yep.
through it is helpful.
Yep.
And I appreciate us being able to, and you, because being able to manage through this and manage through this budget, and we're able to at least ask for things from the community without the same level of impact we would have to, because you've been able to buy down debt and because we've been able to just do some of the things you've already covered throughout this process. And I just really commend you and for enabling us to be able to do this.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to know when the last time was the education tax rate was as low as it is right now.
I sense that's some homework I need to do. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can tell you in my time, I mean, it was pushing $20 when I came on the board. So,
We've come a long way.
And your projections out through 2029, you're below $15, right? And that you've included in that a voted PEPL and
potential
potential geo bond for a Miller project. So that's really impressive.
Same time, it only takes one bad year to blow it all up too.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
you know, just that's my disclaimer. But we manage it the best we can with the information we have at the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, great job.
With ESSER funding disappearing, is there any positions that we are going to be losing or any funding that we need to?
At this time, we're only funding 5 positions through ESSER, and only one of them is not continuing beyond next year. So yeah, we made a conscious effort to really limit the amount of ongoing expenditures that we utilize ESSER for.
And to think through how we would sustain those positions.
Yep,
once
exactly.
ESSER was gone.
Yep, we wanted to make sure we avoided that funding cliff on June 30th.
Are there other questions or comments? What do we need to do tonight, Randy?
So I just need the approval of the board for me to move forward with the proposed tax notice with that 17,037,000 as our maximum published tax dollar rate.
Okay. Then is there a motion to approve publishing the FY25 proposed tax dollar levy as presented?
Second.
Was that you, Maria?
Yeah.
Okay. Morales Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Now on to benefits. I would like to start off by saying I'm much happier to give this presentation this year than I was at this time last year.
You kind of walked into a buzzsaw on that one last year.
I still blame Paulette for it. She knows it. Coming up. Did you break it? Okay. All right. So as we start off with every committee meeting as well as this presentation, next slide there, Amy, just a quick review of our guiding parameters that the board has set that we start every meeting off with. Again, we want to retain better than average plan design and contributions. We want to incent good consumer behavior, incent greater use of our flex spending accounts, ensure that our plans are solvent. We are fully self-insured, so that basically means we are the insurance company. So we want to make sure that we have a plan that's solvent. We want to make sure that we're bending or reducing the trend of healthcare at Marshtown School District, and then ensuring that we're compliant across all plans and groups. Next slide. So the Benefits Committee, they have been put together. Their purpose is to serve as an advisory board to school officials and act as a liaison between employees and administration. The committee this year did meet twice. We met on January 17th and February 20th. During those meetings, we met with our consultants at Gallagher. They reviewed our medical plans and analytics, all of our benchmarking data, reviewed renewal strategies and options with us, and provided some additional reports that were requested by the committee, and then came up with a renewal recommendation, which I will go over here today. Bless you. On the next slide, just a quick snapshot of our 2 current health plans. I know that's not the easiest to see, but no changes from what we've offered the last couple of years. We have a Blue Advantage HMO plan, which is a $750 single deductible plan, as well as a Blue Choice point of service plan, which has a $1,250 deductible for single. But I will move on to the next slide. Just some quick current statistics on our health plan. We currently have 617 contracts or employees enrolled in our plan. When you count dependents, that's 984 individuals that are covered. Of those folks, 60% are on that Blue Advantage HMO plan, while 40% are on that Blue Choice POS plan. Breakdown of coverage, 80% is single, 4% employee plus one, and 16% at family. Our current plan year at this time is currently running at 6.34 million versus last year at this time was running at 7.1 million. So again, claims are trending down. Things are looking good. Our current claim cost sharing, no changes from where we were at this time last year. We as the plan, the district covers 92% of the total cost of the plan, while members cover 8%. Depending on where you go, I think industry trend is usually a 90-10 split. There are some places that will go as low as 80-20. So we're that better than average sweet spot that we would like to be at. Our per employee per month costs are also decreasing compared to this time. Last year we were at $922 per employee per month. This year at this time we're running $824 per employee per month. We are continuing to utilize ESSER funding to help offset COVID-related costs of the plan. Right now, we have estimated to utilize $50,000 of ESSER funding for that. Last year, we utilized about $89,000 for that, but with the continuing decreasing trend in COVID, we're at that $50,000 estimate for this year. Next slide. Just some quick highlights of what we went over with as a committee. Current estimated rate adjustment for our health plans for FY25 is at 2%. Last year, the initial recommendation was 20%. We brought back plan design changes to get that down to 16. So with no changes really to the health plan, we're looking at a 2% increase for next year. Claims for the plan, another positive, are trending downward. Plan design changes in prior years have contributed to better plan performance. Somewhat of a negative, well-marked fixed fees are increasing 8.58% compared to last year, but it's not, when you take that in consideration of the plan as a whole, it's not a huge thing, but it's just something to be mindful of. Currently, our current plan covers very expensive gene therapy drugs, so we'll be talking about a recommendation for that tonight. Gene therapy is a technique that modifies a person's genes to treat or cure diseases, rare diseases. They're highly expensive, and they can be up to as much as $3 million per treatment. Currently, there are no current employees that are eligible or needing this gene therapy coverage. Examples of gene therapy drugs would be drugs used to treat for things such as sickle cell disease, muscular dystrophy, hemophilia A, hemophilia B, et cetera. But we don't have anybody currently that would qualify for that. So one of the recommendations tonight will be to remove coverage of those plans, and I'll explain that here in just a minute. Some more positives remaining for the plan. Our dental plan remains solvent, so there's no increase needed there. Our vision is up for renewal, and the benefits committee reviewed options to expand that coverage. We also discussed voluntary benefits. We'll be looking to add additional coverages make additional coverages available to employees that will allow the district to access an online benefits enrollment and education portal at no cost to the district. Flex spending remains steady, and that will renew in January of 2025. So our flex runs on a calendar year versus the rest of our planned years, which will run on a July to June year. Life and LTD also remain steady, and that will renew in July of 2026. So on the next slide, I know this is kind of hard to see too, but here's what the committee reviewed for renewal, so I'll just kind of quickly go over what the changes were. So just as a reminder, the vision is an employee paid benefit. The district doesn't contribute anything towards vision at this time. It is employee paid. It is an equipment only plan, so all of the vision exams are covered under the district's health plan. If folks are on the district's health plan, this is just an equipment only plan. Some of the enhancements to the plan that was reviewed with the committee were to bump the frame benefit up from $50 whole to $150 total allowance. Various lens packages will now be covered in full, and the coverage will now be available for out-of-network as well, where previously it wasn't. Lens fitting and evaluation will now be covered under the new enhanced coverage as well. It's a minor increase in the plan in monthly premium, so for single coverage, it would be an increase of $2.53 a month, and for family, it would be an increase of $6.06 per month. On the next slide, voluntary benefits. So some considerations we had as we were talking voluntary benefits was we thought it was an additional tool that will help attract and retain talented staff. Their individualized financial protection for out-of-pocket costs to best suit the needs of each person and family. It's available at no cost to us, so this would be employee paid 100% benefits. They're also portable, so if employees were to leave us, they can take those benefits with them wherever they go. From a district perspective, offering the voluntary benefits would allow us to use an upgraded online benefits enrollment portal. The current portal that we have right now, there have been several issues with that we've had complaints from both just internally administration-wise, as well as it not being user-friendly for employees. So this was an opportunity for us to vet a system, potentially move to an upgraded online benefit system that will also serve as an education portal. This will be through Wise Benefit. Again, this would be at no cost to us. The catch to that would be that during the first year of implementation, it would require one-to-one meetings, either in person or virtual, with 75% of the staff. We've already had preliminary discussions with Wise Benefits, and we're currently coordinating dates at various times and days. So they'll have up to 10 to 20 counselors available on site at our buildings. They'll also be available after hours from as late as 4 or as early as 4 o'clock till as late as 8 or 9 o'clock at night, whichever works best for employees. Since this would be a new enrollment portal as well, the counselors would not only walk them through and educate them on the benefits, but also would assist them with getting enrolled in their benefits. These counselors, again, will review and educate with staff, not only just the benefits that they're enrolling in, but all of our benefits. So that would include health, dental, vision, life, LTD, the voluntary benefits we would be offering, even benefits that we have available for staff that they may not be aware of through some of our, so like through our life and LTD, we do offer ID protection and student loan forgiveness that's available to folks through those programs, as well as our EAP program. So again, this would occur during the open enrollment, and this would really put an emphasis on the education piece that we've been working on for the last several years in regards to our benefits. Next slide. Oh, there we go. Go up one. I think I missed. There we go. So the voluntary benefits we're looking to offer would be critical illness. That's one of those that's intended to protect employee financial well-being for unexpected costs that may come with a critical illness. That would include things such as cancer, stroke, heart attack, organ failure, accident insurance, which is designed again to provide coverage for folks who may be in an accident. That would include ER visits, urgent care visits, ambulance, intensive care, things like that. There's also supplemental life and long-term care that we would look at that provides additional life insurance on top of the term life insurance that the district already pays for most all employees. That would include also long-term care benefits such as assisted living or nursing home care. Those benefits can be anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 depending on what the employees opt to enroll in. We started with these 3 benefits as they are fairly common and offer additional coverage that most folks are interested in. We did look at some other voluntary benefits, and the committee will continue to review those voluntary benefits in the future, but these were the 3 that we thought would be best to start out with that might cast the biggest net for folks that they might be interested in. So our recommendation is to recommend no changes to the current health plan design at a 2% increase. I guess I should say there would be one recommended change to the health plan, and that would be to discontinue the coverage of gene therapy drugs. 2 main reasons for that. It does protect the solvency and stability of the plan. And 2 is that the district does have access to various resources through Wellmark, as well as our benefit consultants at Gallagher to assist employees in the event that if someone does need gene therapy drugs, that we can get them the assistance that they need to get those drugs covered for them at little or no cost to them. There's programs and federal grants out there that Wellmark and our folks at Gallagher can help connect people with to make sure that they're covered in the event that they would need something like that. Because our plan would cover it, one time, but then usually Wellmark could come in and say, okay, we covered it once, now we're gonna, I forget what the terminology was that Mark used, but basically they could just turn around and say, we're not gonna cover it again, or if we are, we're going to significantly increase the cost of your plan. So that provides some protection to the district, helps ensure that we remain stable and solvent, and again, there's resources out there that we can hook folks up with. Other recommendations would be to expand the vision coverage as presented. Dental, life, and LTD all remain the same, so there's no change recommended there. And then we would also recommend offering the voluntary benefits as presented. Next slide. We are also recommending that we would, the committee did review different contribution models for our health plans, and after reviewing the data that was shared, it was determined that we would continue to provide single health and single dental at full cost to all employees regardless of their classification. And we would continue the grandfathered folks. So for those grandfathered folks, there's a $900 contribution towards families. So, for example, one of our current plans is $708 a month. And so if a new employee signs up for a plan, we only pay $708 per month, and then that employee pays the difference for family. Those grandfathered folks, we increase that contribution to $900 a month, and we'll keep that grandfathered in place. Last I looked, we have currently 75 employees that receive that $900 grandfathered benefit. Other recommendations is that we would continue to moving forward with incremental changes each year that helps us establish the reserves that we need required by law and protect the plan from volatility, and severe rate spikes in bad claim years. And again, we want to continue to remain sensitive to impact of labor shortages and inflation that has on everyone. That was part of the reason that we had a discussion around the contribution models this last go around. And after reviewing the data, it was decided that we're in a position to keep things as they currently stand. So just real quick on the next couple of slides, I won't spend a lot of time on them, but you can see just the what the breakdown is for the rates for next year. The first slide being for non-grandfathered employees, and then the slide after that. Amy, if you want to go down one, that shows the grandfathered rates, which really only impacts those that are on the +1 or family plans. And then the last slide there just shows the dental and vision rates, which again, no changes to the dental and those vision rates slightly going up. Anything I missed from the committees?
Just the dental and vision, the employee pays the full premium cost on those, right?
On the vision, the employee pays the full premium cost. For dental, the district pays the full cost of single.
Okay. No, I don't know that I mean, I would say that's a pretty well-functioning committee. I mean, it really is a good group of people from different employee classifications.
Yes. Different buildings, different classes.
And yeah, they really did do there was some good discussion.
There was some good questions after the first meeting,
you know, different models for premium cost sharing and plan changes and yeah, what you're recommending is essentially what that committee, you know, the consensus for what the recommendation ought to be, so.
Any questions for me?
If not, is there a motion to approve the proposed changes to the self-insured insurance plan and the corresponding cost sharing for the 24-25 plan year as presented?
Move for approval.
Second.
Baltus Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Randy. Board policies. So I had the initial review policies, or at least most of the initial review policies. So 70702, the treasurer's annual report. There are no recommended changes, and so we recommend that be marked as reviewed. 70703, the publication of financial records. Again, no recommended changes, and that one can be marked as reviewed. 70704, the audit policy. No recommended changes. That one can be marked as reviewed. 70705, internal controls. There are no recommended changes, so that can be marked as reviewed. 707-5R1, there is one, that's internal controls procedures. There's one additional bullet point to add forgery or alteration of any document. There's a bullet point in there about altering financial documents. So that one will need to come back for a first reading to amend. And then 70706, the Finance Audit Committee policy, there's no recommended changes, and that one can also be marked as reviewed.
We also had a policy adjustment that Stacy Jewel Crawford, our lead nurse, had proposed. Essentially, she's taken 804.05, which was the stock epinephrine auto-injector supply policy that she had created, and also the 804.09 stock Narcan supply policy, and combined those and then adjusted some language into the new policy, 804.05, MCSD stock emergency medication supplies. So I think the biggest thing, in addition to combining those two policies, was to put some language in there that would protect us in the event that there's shortages of those drugs and or inability. Right now, we get those for free, which is a good thing, but it could change over time to where it's not free, and then we may or may not stock it. So the recommendation is to delete 804.05 and 804.09 in lieu of the new 804.05, which would come back at the next reading.
Questions about, well, any of those policies? I guess my preference would be to delete 804.5 and 9 at the next meeting so that you don't not have a policy, right? Okay. So then that's what we'll do. Looking at reminders for the next meeting, March 18th. Leah, you've got initial review policies, and Miller Middle School will be here to present. I believe the school visit to Miller is Wednesday this week. Does that sound right?
Yep.
I think it's in the morning.
Yeah, 9 to 10.
Just be aware, as usual, about your upcoming committee meetings, if you have any coming up. I think the one that's coming up most quickly, there's an equity committee meeting this week, Thursday.
It was moved to the 19th.
So there's no longer an equity committee meeting coming up this week. It's now on the 19th. Thank you.
Just checking on them, like, what?
Yeah, go vote tomorrow.
Did you hear that, girls? At least two of you were
Assuming
at least
that
two
you
of you had
are
to listen to this.
18 and are eligible to vote.
Stern dad.
It really was. It really was. Ooh. Zach said it was fine. I don't think there are any committee meetings to report on. The only one that might be would be the Benefits Advisory Committee, and I think that was pretty well covered, so.
Okay. Thanks, Randy.
Yeah. Are there any items for any future agenda? What have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown? Nobody takes the easy one, I'll take it.
We approved a couple of new positions.
There it was.
That are going to help with elective enrollment at the high school.
It's always nice to hear the collaboration with the teachers within the school with the PLC.
Yeah, it was nice to hear that PLC report and get an idea from the teachers of how that really functions for them, right?
We have a nice budget that we passed. Well, we're working
We're working
on
on.
in the
We
process.
took the next step.
Yes.
Hopefully that'll be the front page news tomorrow. The tax rate
The tax
proposal.
rate.
Yeah.
This will be the 1 week that I don't get chosen to be on the front page.
Might be bowling.
Might be. That's way better.
And the other thing I would say, it was nice to hear from Lynn Carroll about the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and in particular the way that our district has supported and continued to support that, school-based Big Brothers Big Sisters program. So. All right, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Baltus Morales, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Nobody ever opposes that one.
7:30 a.m.